Awesome. We are live. Good afternoon, tribe. I'm going to give us a minute here for everybody to start loading on and being here for the live that we're getting ready to do. I'm really excited about this. And we'll just give everybody a minute. As you're getting on, make sure that you say hello, where you're from, so we know who all is joining us. And I'm trying to turn my watch off so it wouldn't make noise. Anyway, make sure you let us know where you're from. And when you're watching this in replay, please hashtag replay and share this with someone that you feel like might actually be really interested in this information and that could benefit greatly from that. I pretty much think anybody can and anybody will. So super excited to have our guest here today. And I'm going to give another minute here for people that I can see that we're starting to load on. And that way we can get started, and really excited about this Facebook Live. So why don't we just chat for a minute here, Jim, before I do the introduction while people load on. So what has the pivot been like for you with coronavirus and everything that's going on currently in the world, all the craziness?
Yeah, well, well, hello, everybody who's watching this and joining us. We'll get started in a moment. For me, it was interesting times for everyone. I'm cocooning in New York City the past 4 months, so that has been an experience unto itself. I hope everybody is safe and they're strong, they're sane, sanitized. We're actually, when I say cocooning, I think this is a great metaphor for what we're going through right now, that a butterfly is a profound symbol of transformation. And maybe we feel like we're cocooning and we're alone with our thoughts or our doubts and our fears. We might be even feeling alone. How can we come out of this stronger, better, faster, wiser? And that's what we're going to talk about in this session, how to be limitless in a limited world. It was an interesting time to launch a book, actually, this past month. So definitely interesting times.
Yeah, definitely an interesting time to launch book, for sure. So, okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you Jim's bio and background and everything. We are all in for a big treat today, and I'm super excited about this. So Jim was slated to be one of our keynote speakers at PaleoFX, and of course, now that PaleoFX has been rescheduled to April of 2021, he'll be speaking at the April event. And but what he decided to do is he wanted to do his keynote that he was planning to do at our event this year for you now, because particularly the timing and everything is just really perfect, because I think it will really help a whole lot of people. So Jim Kwik is the widely recognized world expert in speed reading, memory improvement, brain performance, and accelerated learning. After a childhood brain injury left him learning challenged, Kwik created strategies to dramatically enhance his mental performance. For over 2 decades, he has served as the go-to brain coach to many of the world's leading CEOs and celebrities. He is the founder of Kwik Learning with students in 195 countries. He is also the host of the top education training podcast, Kwik Brain, and author of the New York Times bestselling and #1 Wall Street Journal book, Limitless: Upgrade Your Brain, Learn Anything Faster, Unlock Your Exceptional Life. His mission: no brain left behind. Thank you so much for being here, Jim. I'm so excited about you doing this, and particularly for our community. Our community is always really looking for ways to really upgrade their life, their performance, their brain cognition, all of those things. So I really feel blessed to have you here. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Michelle, thank you again for setting this up and make this available for the PaleoFX community. I'll just get right into it. I hope everybody, our goal here as we were doing some banter before we started to go on was saying that we're using a symbol of a butterfly. We're going through this transformation. While the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth happens in the cocoon. So I'm going to share with you some research and some tools out of my new book, Limitless: Upgrade Your Brain, Learn Anything Faster, and Unlock Your Exceptional Life. And so this is something very exclusive for this group.
And I'm just going to let y'all know, I'm going to bow off I will be in the background. I'm going to come off the screen so you get to see Jim solely. So I will be back in a little while.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. All right. Wonderful. Let's get into this. And I encourage everybody to take notes. Shauna, good to see you. Frank, Susan, everybody who's here watching this live, I want to thank you for taking some of your time and your attention, because that's what your life is made out of. Your time and attention is made, your life is made out of your focus and your time. And so I want to make sure you get incredible value out of this. We're going to go to the top of the hour, and I'm going to share with you practical tools, techniques, some of the research that I have discovered over the past 28 years of teaching brain performance. This is all out of my new book called Limitless that just recently came out, and let's do this. So this is kind of like a virtual keynote for those of you we're going to for Paleo FX exclusively. So I'm happy to also answer any of your questions. Janet Joy, I love you too. So let's get into this. My goal here is to create a coaching right now, like a masterclass on accelerated learning. I think if there's one skill to master in the 21st century, it's our ability to quickly change, to rapidly absorb and apply new information in a world that's been disrupted. And going back to this cocooning idea, let me riff on this a little bit. Here are a few ideas of what I'm giving clients to do while they are cocooning. If you're physically distancing yourself, again, you might be alone with your doubts, you might be alone with your thoughts, you might be alone, feeling alone, and we know the detrimental effects that has, in terms of our learning and also our life. And so I'm going to share with everybody. Let's give me 5 really quick C's to jumpstart us on choices that we can make to come out of this stronger and better. Now, think about this. I'm going to give you a question. What is the story that you want to tell a year from now, 2 years from now, sometime in the future about now? Not necessarily what was going on in the world, but what was going on in your world. And I want you to work backwards from that. In my book, Limitless, I have a quote from a French philosopher saying, life is the C between B and D. Life is the C between B and D. What does that mean? B is birth, D is death, C stands for what? Choice. I believe that these difficult times can define you, these difficult times can diminish you, or these difficult times can develop you. Ultimately, we decide. We always have that choice. And our life is pretty much the sum total of all the choices we've made up to this point. What are we going to eat? Where are we going to live? Who are we going to spend time with? What are we going to do for our careers? All those little decisions add up to big things, right? Little by little, a little becomes a lot. So here are 5 choices, talking about the power of choice, things that you could do right now. And then we're going to get into the art of accelerated learning, the art and science of learning faster, to upgrade your brain so you can optimize your performance, have focus, be able to study technical material, be able to read faster, be able to enhance your memory. That's the promise of this conversation. Okay, so 5 keys right now. Number 1, I would start with clarity. Clarity, meaning, and I always start with questions. I believe questions are the answer. I'm going to give you a number of empowering, limitless questions to be able to harness your focus. The power question here is this. What's most important to you in life? What's most important to you in this world? What's most important to you in this moment? What's most important to you in relationships? What's most important to you in your health? What's most important to you in your career? What's most important to you in your impact? What's most important to you in just fill in the blank? And this is going to give you clarity for your, I don't encourage you to share this. We are live. We're going to go for an hour. Now is a good time to share this. You can tag me in it. If you take a screenshot, tag me, I'll repost it, but spread the word, because this is an important conversation. With my book, Limitless, my publisher actually gave me the option to release this in the fall. And here's the thing. I said, no, we have to have it come out now, because this book is more than a book on speed reading, remembering names, and learning languages, and giving TED Talks from memory. This book is about managing your mind in times of crisis. This book is about how to optimize your focus and your productivity when you're forced to work at home. This book is about supporting your children when they're not in school. This book is about learning new subjects or learning a new skill set because you've lost your job or you want to get to the next level in your business and your brand, or your bank account, right? It all starts with the power of the mind. So certainly feel free right now to share this far and wide. There's nothing to buy here other than the book. I donate 100% of the proceeds to the book to charity to build schools. We built schools everywhere from Guatemala to Kenya, providing healthcare and clean water and education to children in need, also Alzheimer's research as well. So that being said, 5 C's you could do, 5 things you could do, choices to come out of this stronger and better. Number 1, clarity. Ask yourself, what's most important to me in my life? What's most important to me in blank? And then the second question is this: are my actions aligned with those values? I believe a lot of people complain about not being, they're burnt out and they say they're doing too much. I often find when I'm working with clients, that you're not burnt out because you're doing too much. Often you're burnt out because you're doing too little of the things that light you up, the things that you value, the things that make you come alive. All right. And so that's a big part of clarity. Solitude is a wonderful time for self-reflection. Sometimes when you and I, all of us, were going 100 miles an hour through life, through our day, through our to-do list, we don't take a pause, take a breath, and check in with ourselves and say, are we going and driving in the right direction? Right? One of my mentors, Dr. Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I believe leaders are readers. And so reading is to your mind what exercises your body. So I'm going to mention a number of books that are on my book list. But he says, you don't want to climb the ladder of success very efficiently and get to the top, work really hard to realize that the ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. And so get direction now. Check in with yourself. Some of us haven't checked in with ourselves in so long. So maybe a global pause allows us to be able to check in and find out, are we going in the right direction? What's most important to me? And are my actions aligned with that? The second thing I would say, besides clarity, is care. Now, this being part of this community. Self-care is not selfish. So I'm not just talking about physical hygiene. I mean, we all know the hacks for that, right? And even right now, what's going on with the pandemic, we know physical hygiene, wash your hands, 6 feet distance, wear a mask, sanitize things. I mean, mental hygiene. Let's get the mind right. And here's the thing about chronic stress. Chronic stress has been proven to shrink your brain. And so that's not a great place to be if you need to study, if you need to perform, if you need to create, new brand or expand your business. Chronic fear, though, it actually suppresses your immune system. There's a whole area of science called psychoneuroimmunology. And so what I would say is, how do you get out of fear, right? Because that will make you more susceptible to colds, the flus, the viruses. Well, here's the thing about your mind. Your mind has an algorithm like Facebook or Instagram has an algorithm. Have you ever noticed that if you engage with a certain content, it shows you more of that content? If you watch every cat video or like every cat post or comments or share every cat post, the algorithm will start showing you more cats, and that becomes your feed, right? Well, your mind has that same algorithm. And so if you are just what people are overindulging in the news, and I'm not saying don't pay attention to what's going on. That's not what I'm saying at all. But if you feel like you're overindulging in it, here's the thing. Your brain gets hijacked. Your amygdala gets hijacked by threat, right? That's a survival mechanism. And so you have to pay attention to what's threatening, that what could hurt you, harm you, injure you, cause death, right? And so if it bleeds, it leads. And the news knows that because that's a media, right? And so, but if you overindulge with it, what you're doing is you're engaging with that, what is dark or scary or threatening, and your mind has that same algorithm, just like Instagram and Facebook, so it starts showing you more of cats. In this case, it shows you more of what's dark. Here's the challenge. Your brain primarily is a deletion device. All right. Your brain primarily is a deletion device, meaning that you're trying to keep information out, because if you let everything in, you would be overloaded and overwhelmed, right? And you have a limited conscious bandwidth. But if your mind is being hijacked by what's dark and threatening, then you have no bandwidth left to look at opportunity, to be able to shine a light on possibility, to be able to look at what you can be grateful for. I believe gratitude is the antidote to fear. And here's that mind hack you could do, a thought experiment to feel gratitude. Because again, chronic fear makes you more susceptible to, your immune system more susceptible. Stress creates anxiety, fight, flight, freeze. That's not a great place to enrich yourself, to be able to grow to new levels. Here's the thing. When you're focusing on gratitude, here's an experiment. What if the only things you had tomorrow were the things you expressed gratitude for today? What if the only things in your life you had tomorrow were the things you expressed gratitude for today? So just a little thought experiment. If you want to feel more wealthy, for example, here's another experiment. Take out a piece of paper. I would encourage you to take notes anyway as I go through this. I'll teach you a fun way of taking notes, a powerful way of taking notes. What if you wrote down all the things you have in your life that money can't buy? Right? And you come from that place, because all learning and all life is state dependent. So most importantly, the people that are really going to not only survive, but really thrive are those who are controlling their mood of their mind and their body. And so those are two thought experiments. So first thing, clarity. Second thing, care. And part of self-care is, we know self-care is not selfish, is mental hygiene. Now in the book, I talk about the best brain foods, how to optimize your sleep, how to reduce your stress, my way of, the process I take through meditation and so on. And most importantly, control what's going in your mind. All right, so that's number two. So number one, clarity. Number two, care. Number three, what I would say is, the third thing I would say is contribution. The antidote, another antidote to fear besides gratitude is service. For me, I mentioned that all the proceeds of this book is going to charity for children and brain research. Now, how can you, and here's the question. Questions are always the answer. How can you invest some of your time, your talent, or some of your treasure, your money, to make a difference? Because when you're focusing on somebody else, you can't be in that same fearful state. Like when people see me at live events, I do these demonstrations if there's time. I'll have 50 people in an audience stand up and introduce themselves, and I'll memorize all their names. Or an audience will give me 100 words or 100 random numbers, and I'll memorize them forwards and backwards. And I always tell people, I don't do this to impress you. I do this to express to you what's truly possible, because the truth is you could do that and a lot more. But here's another truth. You just weren't taught. If anything, you were taught a lie. And in my book, Limitless, I share the 7 lies to learning and genius. And a lie for me stands for limited idea entertained. A limited idea entertained. It's not true. It's not true that intelligence is fixed. It's not true that genius is born. It's not true that knowledge is power, because it's not just power, it's potential power. It comes power when we utilize it. It's not true that we use 10% or 20% of our brain. It's not true. None of these are true. And in the book, I show you a process of unlimiting. Unlimiting is a word I coined years ago. It's the active removal of limits in your mindset, in your motivation, in the methodologies that you're using to read better, faster, to have better focus, to improve your memory. And so primarily this book is a methodology book. And also, going back to contribution, think about ways that you can invest your time, talent, treasure to be able to make a difference. Because I know it's possible for you doing these feats, because I grew up, some of you know, with learning challenges. I had a traumatic brain injury when I was 5 years old. I had slow processing issues, focus, memory issues. Teachers would repeat themselves over and over and over again, and I just wouldn't get it. I would pretend. I would have imposter syndrome. I would pretend to understand, but I didn't truly understand. By the way, Frank, Janet, thank you everybody who's sharing this as we're going live here. Here's the thing. I know it's possible because I struggled all through school. It took me 3 years longer to learn how to read. I taught myself by reading comic books late at night. And something about the comics, I talk about superpowers and supervillains and modern day superheroes. And I'll talk a little bit about that in this session, because I believe you have superpowers in you. That if knowledge is power, learning is your superpower. That if knowledge is power, learning is your superpower. But going back to this process, I realized that going through these struggles, I remember when I was 9 years old, a teacher pointed to me. I was slowing down the entire class. I was being teased, bullied a little bit because I didn't understand the lessons. I wasn't keeping up. And a teacher came to my defense, and she was like, that's the boy with the broken brain, in front of the whole entire class. And that label became my limit. It had good intentions, but that's all I remembered. So every single time I did badly on a quiz or a test, which was often, every time I wasn't picked for sports, which was often, I would always say, oh, it's because I have the broken brain. And that became my self-talk. People come to me all the time and they say, Jim, I have a horrible memory. Jim, I have horrible focus. I say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them. Your brain is like this incredible supercomputer, and your self-talk is the program it will run. So if you tell yourself, I'm not good at remembering names, you will not remember the name of the next person you meet, because you program your supercomputer not to. Going back to contribution, how can you make a difference, right? And so it could be as simple as calling a neighbor who might be a little bit more vulnerable. It could be making food for frontline workers. How can you make a difference with yourself or your business? All right, so that's contribution. For me also, by the way, growing up as the boy with the broken brain, I became painfully shy, extremely introverted. I never wanted the attention. I would do a book report, but if a teacher asked me to present it, I would lie and say I didn't do it. Because I was so fearful. And I would get those butterflies. We're talking about butterflies and coming out of this cocoon stronger and better. But I would get butterflies inside of me, even to this day, going on stage. And I'm in front of 250,000 people live each year. I would still get butterflies, but the moment I step on stage, I look to contribute. I focus on one person I could help. And all of a sudden, that fear dissipates. So contribution. The fourth C of clarity, care, contribution, fourth C to come out of this better butterfly, if you will, because when the caterpillar feels like it's the end of the world, it becomes that butterfly. Fourth C is this, creativity, creativity. Did you know it was during the Great Plague where William Shakespeare created some of his most magnificent works, Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra. It was during the plague where they shut down London University and Isaac Newton had to physically distance himself. He went home, and when he was sitting underneath a tree in his yard, an apple fell on his head and he came up with the theories of motion, the theories of gravity. And I'm not saying you have to create at that level, but maybe you are on that path. But what have you always wanted to create? What business, what marketing campaign, what recipe, what blog, what writing, music. I believe the future belongs to the creatives. The future belongs to the creatives. Meaning even before what's going on right now, jobs are going to machines. They're being automated. They're going to artificial intelligence. What's not going to be outsourced is the human mind, right? When I talk about being limitless, let me back up. The title of my book, Limitless, and some of you have seen the movie. The foreword is written by Dr. Mark Hyman, and he literally says in it, there is no genius pill, but Jim gives you the process for your best brain and your brightest future. And there's no side effects either with this. Some of you know we take a Limitless pill in the movies. Bradley Cooper, he has incredible focus, incredible memory, learns all these languages, has incredible motivation, but after the pill wears off, he goes back down to zero. But there is a process. There's always a method behind the magic. And so creativity, what can you create? Because truly, Limitless is not about being perfect. Limitless is about advancing and progressing beyond what you believe is possible. All right. And so what is limitless? The limitless resource we have on planet Earth is the mind. The sky's not the limit. Our mind is the limit. And there's no limit to your creativity. There's no limit to human imagination. There's no limit to our ability to come together and solve problems. There's no limit to human determination, right? And that's what the book is, an owner's manual for your brain to remove these limits, because most limits are learned. I wasn't born with this thought that I was broken, right? When you're born, literally everything is possible. And so you get imprinted through your experiences, through other people's expectations, through an external environment, and so on. So where can we unlearn these things in terms of our motivation, in terms of our mindset, in terms of also the methods we're using on a day-to-day basis to be healthy, to be well, to be fit, to be smart, to be productive, all right? The final C, the fifth C of clarity, care, contribution, creativity. The final C is capability. You have your to-do list. But do you have a to-learn list? What's on your to-learn list? What have you always wanted to, if you had time? And here's the thing, we have unfettered access to the world's information. YouTube, many of you listen to my podcast, 15-minute episodes on how to remember names, learn languages, change your habits, memorize your grocery list, do all these things, right? Here's the thing, information is out there, even right now. And so what have you always wanted to learn? Maybe it's Spanish, maybe it's salsa, maybe it's speed reading, right? Maybe it's animal flow. What have you always wanted to learn? And I think the number one capability to learn today is learning how to learn. Meaning, imagine this thought experiment, that there was a genie who could grant you any one wish, but only one wish. And you can put it in the comments. Jenny, you're awesome. If any one wish, what would you wish for? If you could only get one wish, limitless wishes, right? Now, if I was your learning genie and I could grant you one learning wish, help you master any one subject or any one skill, what would it be? Would it be a fitness routine? Would it be coding? Would it be, what would it be? For me, in the same spirit of asking for limitless wishes, it'd be learning how to learn. Because if you could learn how to learn, to focus, to study, to read faster, to remember, to be able to critically think and so on, if you could do that, you could learn everything else, right? Because then you could grant your own limitless wishes. You could apply that towards anything, money, Mandarin, music, martial arts, right? Everything gets easier. The power of the mind, right? Learning how to learn, right? It's the number one competitive advantage in today's world of ever-changing, rapid changing technology, rapid changing information. The half-life of information gets shorter and shorter. Everything gets outdated. A book comes out and then a couple of years later, it's just outdated. You have to learn and learn and learn, and that's your competitive advantage. So that's the 5 C's. I would add, that's the 6th one. If I was at a bonus one, is consistency. So much so right now that if you are working from home, you need structure and consistency, right? Because first you create your habits, and then your habits create you. And that applies towards your kids, it applies towards your team. And so having constraints, actually giving yourself limits, actually forces concentration. If you have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of bandwidth, a limited amount of energy, or a limited amount of money, it forces concentration, it forces commitment, it forces creativity, and so on. But how are you structuring your day? I have we have videos out there a lot, millions and millions of views, 300 million views the past couple of years. And you just search my name on Facebook or YouTube or wherever your favorite platform is. One of the most popular ones is my morning routine. What are the 10 things that I do every single morning? And everybody has their own morning routine. For me, every single activity is for my brain, to get my brain right first thing in the morning. And we could talk about that in a little bit. Now, let me go from here, transition from these 6 C's to coming out as this butterfly. While there's beauty is in the butterfly, the struggle, and the strength, it actually happens in the cocoon. Let me share with you what I call the limitless model. That is the framework in this book. And it's a framework for learning anything faster. And it's also a framework for unlocking human potential, which I do believe is limitless. And I'll explain why. I want you to take out a piece of paper right now, and I want you to draw 3 circles, 3 intersecting circles. So I'll do that also with you. 3 intersecting circles is a Venn diagram. So a Venn diagram, looks like this. Looks like Mickey Mouse, right? Mickey Mouse. And I want you to draw that. And here are the 3 keys to becoming limitless. Now, I want to make this very personal for you. I want you to think about an area of your life where you feel limited. And remember, I'm defining limitless not about being perfect, but about advancement, about progressing beyond what you believe is possible. What area of your life, your health, your physical vitality, your financial situation, your business, your career, your relationships, your reading speed, your memory, where do you feel limited? Where do you feel like you're in a box? All right, so think about an area where you're just not making progress, an area of your box. You don't have to share this in the chat, but an area where you feel like you're in a box. Now that box by definition is 3-dimensional, right? 3 dimensions to this box. And these are the 3 forces that keep you in that box. And it's the same 3 forces that will liberate you out of that box. And here's the thing. These are the 3 circles. All right, so let me share you the 3 circles. Now the last circle, I'm gonna give you 3 M's, are the methods. All right, so the last circle are the methods. And the methods, this book primarily, it's interesting, was 100% based on methodology. When I first wrote this book and I was going to hit send to my publisher, before I hit send, methodology meaning this is how to focus, this is how to concentrate, this is how to remember names and learn languages and formulas and give TED Talks, this is how to read 2 or 3 times faster, this is how to be able to study technical information and know it long term, this is how to be creative and make good decisions and solve problems. And before I hit send, I said, will 100% of the people who read this book, will they get the results they're hoping for? And my honest answer was no, because I didn't address the 2 other things that must be there. Because a lot of people know the methods or they know what to do, but they don't do what they know. Because knowledge alone is not power, right? All the podcasts, programs, everything out there, none of it works unless you work. A lot of people, how many of you are really good at buying books? You're really good at buying books. Well, here's this difference. There's a difference between buying a book and reading a book. 2 different skill sets, 2 different capabilities, right? A lot of people will buy books and it'll sit on your shelf and become shelf help and not self-help. And that's a challenge. Most people do not read, and we'll talk about reading a little bit, because my goal is to make this the most read book of the year, meaning that maybe it's not the most bought book, although it's doing really well. But in this book, I actually have a chapter on how to read and remember this in any book. Because as a speed reading teacher, this is most people go right there for the first time. Because here's the thing, when's the last time you took a class called reading? You're not born with that skill. How old were you? 6, 7 years old? And so is it accurate to say we're still reading like when we were first taught, and the difficulty of demand has increased, but how we're doing it is a struggle, right? And how many of you feel like you're drowning information? It's like it's taking a sip of water out of a fire hose. The amount of information is doubling at dizzying speed, but how we read it and learn it and remember it hasn't changed much. So that growing gap creates a big health condition called information anxiety, information fatigue syndrome, higher blood pressure, compression of leisure time, more sleeplessness. People they're drowning in information, but they're never taught properly how to swim, right? Or how to surf. And that's why I wrote this book. But a lot of people know what to do, but common sense is not common practice. So how do I get people to implement it? You need 2 M's before the methods. And the first M, the first circle, is your mindset. So write that down. Now I'm defining mindset as your set of assumptions and attitudes about something. Your attitudes, assumptions about the world. Your attitudes and assumptions about education. Your attitudes, assumptions about money. Your attitudes, assumptions about learning, right? Or reading, or memory, or focus. How about this? Your attitudes and assumptions about yourself will fall in this circle. Things like what I believe is possible. Okay, what I believe is possible is in that circle. What I believe I'm capable of, because you could see me on stage memorize 50 or 100 people's names, but you might think I'm not capable of it, like you're not capable of it. So what you believe is possible, what you believe you're capable of. Also, let's get real here, what you believe you deserve. So you could have a method on how to remember names, and I teach you that. But if your mindset is I'm too old or I have a horrible memory, then you're still stuck in that box. All right. So we have to unlimit those lies, limited idea entertained, right? All that BS, all those belief systems, that's what BS stands for. Now, once you have the mindset, you need the second M, which is your motivation. All right. Now, here's the thing. You could have the limitless mindset, believe everything is possible, and you can have the methods. But if you're not motivated, you're still stuck in that box. So here is the secret. This is the formula for sustained limitless motivation. Write this down. P times E times S3. P times E times S3. Now, if you don't get your mindset right, you're going to self-sabotage, right? Because let's say you are moving towards something, but then you take 2 steps back because you don't believe you deserve it, or you don't believe you're capable of it, or you don't believe you're worth it. That's in a mindset. But if you're procrastinating, how many of you have something that you know you should do, but you're not doing it? You're putting it off, right? And some of you have seen my video online. I talk about superheroes a lot. I have like a life-size Iron Man. I didn't have much of a childhood. I was bullied. I had learning challenges. It was just very, so now I lived like vicariously through superheroes. And so I have like this Iron Man suit. Some of you saw this video I did. I have a 10-foot Hulk in my backyard, and I did this. You can search this, Jim Kwik, smashing procrastination. The 5 keys to smash procrastination, like the Hulk smashes, right? And going back to this, the formula though for sustained motivation is P times E times S3. Now, this book is not only the latest neuroscience applied towards accelerated learning and human cognitive performance. It's also 28 years plus of me teaching full time, everyone from children with severe learning challenges to aging adults who feel like they're losing their memory or their mind. The reason why we're donating the proceeds to build schools for children is because of passion about education. And also the other part is Alzheimer's research in memory of my grandmother, because when I was going through these challenges as a child, my primary caregiver was my grandmother, because my parents were always like working. They immigrated here and didn't speak the language and all these challenges. But my grandmother passed of Alzheimer's, and that's why I'm so passionate about memory. Going back to accelerated learning and what I focus on is also not only the research that's come out, and we've discovered more about the human brain more in the past 10 years than the previous 1,000 years combined. What we've also found out is like when I'm working with these individuals, it's this field testing of what it takes for someone to be truly motivated. P times E times S3. And let me give it to you really quick. Let's do a thought experiment. Let's say we are going to build the ultimate motivated human being. It needs 3 things. The first thing, the P, stands for purpose. Purpose. And purpose for me is not life purpose, although I address that in the book, like how to discover your life purpose and the difference between passion and purpose. What I'm talking about is having a reason to do something. So take an area of your life that you're procrastinating. Let's give something general. Let's say it's working out. All right. Maybe you want to work out an hour a day. But here's the thing, you have to feel the benefits. Here, purpose is a feeling. It's not cognitive. We all know why we should eat right and why we should exercise, why we should prioritize sleep, why we should meditate. We know that intellectually, but if you don't feel it, let me give you an example. An acquaintance of mine, long-term acquaintance, was never healthy. And all of us recommended, hey, doing interventions and saying, you got to stop this and start doing this. You're not heading in a good path. And he's like, no, this is just who I am. And he ends up having a heart attack, almost dies, has triple bypass surgery. He lives through it and he goes back to his old ways. And we were like, what does it take, And then later on, a few years later, I see him out and about and he's the picture perfect of health. He looks so fit. He looks so much younger. And he was telling me about all the things he was doing. And I was like, look, we've been telling you about that for years, but what made the change? And he was like, oh, and he got like still. He was like, one day he came home and his daughter was like in hysteria, crying uncontrollably. And she had this dream that, without getting too much detail, that her father, he had passed and he died and was not there to walk her down the aisle and be there for her children and so on. Anyway, that was his purpose. And all of a sudden he felt a purpose. And so what I would remind you is, the first thing you need to be motivated is you need a purpose. You need a reason to do it, meaning that you might not even enjoy it. I have a friend who gets up at 4:30 every single morning to work out. And I was like, wow, that person's motivated, never misses a day. And some of you know who this person is. And I was just like, wait a second. I have a question. You're so motivated. Are you a morning person? He was like, no, I'm absolutely not a morning person. I'm like, okay, well then you must love to get up to work out. He's like, no, I hate working out more than I love getting up in the morning. I'm like, wow. So you don't have to actually enjoy that activity. I say bring the joy to the activity. You can make a choice and bring joy into it. If you're not doing what you love, bring joy and love into what you're doing, right? But he was still motivated, right? And so, but he had a purpose. He has a reason. And so what's your reason? Allow yourself to feel the pleasure of the benefits that come from that activity, and also the pain that'll come if you don't follow through. Who's counting on you to be at your best, to show up? Because the life you live are the lessons that you're teaching everyone else. Like, for example, for me, if you follow me on Instagram, I do these ice baths all the time, right? I met Wim Hof 7.5 years ago. I interviewed him. We were both speaking at an event outside of Harvard. And it was like, I'm doing cold therapy ever since. And honestly, I don't like the cold. I grew up in the Northeast. I just actually despise the cold. I don't like being cold, but I have a purpose for doing it, right? And many of you know what those reasons are. So going back to motivation, first find a purpose and allow yourself to feel it. But here's the thing. If somebody just has a big enough purpose, will they always follow through? And my thought experiment and working with people said, no, they could be missing the E. The E, P times E times S3. The E stands for energy. Energy. Somebody could want to work out. They could have a purpose or feel the benefits and the consequences of not working out or reading every day and studying or whatever that activity is they want to be motivated to do. But maybe they have a newborn baby and they haven't slept in 3 nights, or maybe they had a big processed meal and they're in a food coma and they don't feel like studying. They're not going to be motivated. So you need energy. So in the book, I talk about the 10 keys for mental vitality, how to clear brain fatigue. Now, here's the thing. You do not have energy, just like you do not have motivation. You do not have focus. You do not have creativity. These are things you do. Part of what the book of Unlimiting is all about is about taking nouns and turning them into verbs. We hypnotize ourselves to say, wake up and say, oh, I don't have creativity today to make videos or to put together lesson plans or to be able to write today. Or I don't have energy to be able to work out or to study today. I don't have focus to be able to concentrate to get things done. These are not things you have. You are hypnotizing yourself. And so a big part of this book and this conversation, it's about transcending, ending the trance, ending this mass hypnosis through our relationships, through media, through marketing that says we're just not enough. All right. Because you are a thermostat. You're not a thermometer. Write that down. I am a thermostat, not a thermometer. Thermometer just reacts to everything. And sometimes we react to things, but the quality of life, all the studies and research done on happiness says that when you feel like you're in control of how you feel, what things mean, you're a thermostat. You can gauge the environment, but that you set a temperature and the environment reacts to what? To you. All right. So going back to the motivation, energy is so important. And it's not something you have, it's something you do. Focus. There's a method for focus. You can't just go look at your team or your kids or yourself and saying, concentrate. That's like going to somebody, say, play the piano or play the violin, to somebody who's never, ever taken a violin or a piano lesson. Nobody's ever had a class on focus, on concentration, on memory, on advanced study, or maybe even speed reading, right? That's what the book is. And that's why I want to fill in those gaps in our education system to upgrade those methods. But you also have to have energy to follow through, all right? And again, energy is not something you have, it's something that you do. Now, if you just have purpose, you feel the purpose and you have energy, will you always be motivated? And my answer is no. You could be missing the third element of the formula for motivation, limitless motivation, S3, 3 S's. Small, simple steps. Small, simple steps. Because I found in my experience what keeps someone from being motivated, even when they have purpose and energy, is they don't have clarity. This thing is too big. They want to have the perfect body. They want to meet their soulmate and live happily ever after. They want to build the next, $1 million empire. I get 1 million followers or whatever their goal is, right? That's way too big. So a small, simple step, for example, for someone who doesn't work out, we know as your body moves, your brain grooves. When you move, you create brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, which is like fertilizer for neuroplasticity for your brain, right? We know that as people listen to my podcast or my audiobook or any audiobook or podcast, when they're listening to it on an elliptical or they're doing something rhythmic, that they're going to retain and understand it even better, right? Your body is made, the primary reason you have a brain is to control your movement. As your body moves, your brain grooves. But if you're not working out, and I'm not just saying your workout 3 times a week, I'm talking about moving on a regular basis, right? Right here, I have my standing desk, I have my treadmill, I do all this other stuff. I'm always moving because as your body moves, your brain grooves. And we know that people like, there's Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, they do walking meetings because they're most creative and they get sunshine and they get fresh air. Incredibly important for your focus and your brain function. But going back to this, somebody might not take action because they need S3, small, simple steps. So maybe it's not working out an hour a day for someone who hasn't done that. Maybe a small, simple step, putting on your running shoes. Maybe leaders or readers. By the way, do you know how many minutes a day it takes the average person to read a book a week? 45 minutes a day. Only 45 minutes a day. I was really surprised. There's about, having wrote this book, there are about 64,000 words in a book on average. And the average person reads only 200 words per minute. If you divide those two numbers, it's 320 minutes to get through one book. Divided by 7 days in a week, about 45 minutes a day will get you through one book a week, 52 books a year. The reason why I'm doing this is because after I learned to unlimit myself and I was 18 years old, I couldn't help but help other individuals. I started tutoring, and my first tutoring person was a freshman in college. She read 30 books in 30 days. Can you imagine that? 30 books in 30 days. And I wanted to find out not how she did it. I know exactly how she did it. I taught her. I wanted to know her motivation. And I found out her purpose was her mother was dying of terminal cancer, was given 2 months, 60 days to live. And the books she was reading were books to save her own mom's life. And I get chills even thinking about it. I get a call 6 months later from this young woman She's crying and crying, crying. I find out the tears of joy. Her mother not only survived, but is really getting better. Doctors don't know how. They don't know why. They called it a miracle. But her mother attributed 100% to the great advice she got from her daughter, who learned her from all these books. And in that moment, I realized that if knowledge is power, learning is your superpower. Reading is your superpower. Remembering is your superpower. Focus and concentration is your superpowers. Advanced studying techniques and thinking techniques, those are your superpowers in today's modern age. The challenge is there are no classes on that, right? Classes taught you what to learn, what to think, what to focus on, what to study, what to remember, but not how to learn, how to think, how to focus, how to study, how to remember. And those are the most important skills today, because with those skills, you can learn every other subject, every other skill. Going back to this, let's say reading 45 minutes a day is too much for somebody. Now, by the way, many of you have gone through our programs online. We have the largest online accelerated learning academy in the world, students in 195 countries. We triple people's reading speed on average. If you could do something in 15 minutes that normally takes 45 minutes, that's a huge advantage. It takes about 4 hours a day to be able to process information. The average person's processing data about like reading emails, books, business plan, prospectus, 4 or 5 hours a day. If you could just double your reading speed, what's 2 hours a day saved over the course of a year? Actually, let's make the math really simple. If you save just 1 hour a day over the course of a year, how many hours is that? 365 hours. How many 40-hour work weeks is that? Divided by 40. 9, more than 9 weeks of productivity, 2 months of productivity to get back saving 1 hour on something ubiquitous like reading. But let's say you can't, maybe you have to read 45 minutes a day. That's too big for somebody. Maybe the small, simple step is opening up the book or reading the first line. How do you find your small, simple step? Ask yourself this magic question. Remember, questions are the answer. What is the tiniest action I could take that will give me progress towards this goal where I cannot fail? What is the tiniest action I could take that will give me progress towards this goal where I cannot fail? Remember this, inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yard by yard, it's too hard. Little by little, a little becomes a lot. So how can you break things down into small, simple, non-intimidating steps? And that's the formula for sustained motivation. Purpose times energy times small, simple steps. And then finally, the last circle in the Limitless model is methods. That's the process. If mindset is what's possible, then motivation is purpose and methods is the process. The challenge is we haven't learned those processes. So if you can have the limitless mindset and limitless motivation, but if the method you're using for being fit is something that's old and outdated, or the method you're using for your diet in terms of what you're eating and the schedule you're eating and what you're eating is old and outdated, then you're not going to get your limit. You're still being stuck in that box. Now, in these methods, I'm talking about the limits of how we first learned how to read or to, remember through rote repetition, which is the most tedious, boring way and ineffective way of learning something brand new. It's just to keep on repeating or reading it over and over and over again. So I want to unlimit those 5 areas: focus, study, memory, which is the largest chapter in the book. I actually wrote it in Greece because I found out the ancient Greeks had this incredible technique for remembering things before printing presses and computers. How would they pass on information and give, poetry readings and great orators give speeches? Also speed reading, and finally critical thinking skills. Right? Because all of this with the digital age, we have more digital deluge, we have more digital distraction, we have digital dementia, relying on our smart devices to store our memories. So we can't remember a phone number. How many phone numbers did you know growing up? All of them. How many do you know now? 1, maybe 2. And you're like, Jim, I don't want to memorize 200 numbers. Neither do I. But it should be concerning we've lost the ability to remember 1 number or a PIN number or a passcode or a conversation we just had. I believe that 2 of the most costly words in business and in life are I forgot. I forgot to do it. I forgot to bring it. I forgot that meeting. I forgot what I was going to say. I forgot that person's name. Just goes on and on and on. You lose credibility. You lose trust. You lose respect. You can lose time. You can lose opportunity every single time you have those thoughts. Now, here's the magic. Where I'm going to share the screen right now. You see this. You should have this if you're drawing this. So here is the Limitless model. If you could see this here, 3 circles: mindset, motivation, and methods. Now watch this. where mindset crosses over with motivation. I'm gonna give you 3 eyes on this screen share. Mindset and motivation cross over, you have inspiration. Inspiration. And I think, Michelle, you have to allow the screen share. Mindset and motivation cross over, you have something called inspiration. And you have mindset books and mindset experts. You have motivational books, motivational experts. Where they cross over, you have inspiration. You have inspirational books, inspirational experts, inspirational movies, right? An inspiring movie will change your mindset about what's possible and it'll give you some energy and some motivation. But what are you lacking? The methods, right? And so you are inspired, but you're not doing anything. Where mindset crosses over with methods, that becomes ideation. Ideation, where mindset and methods cross over. You have a limitless mindset in your mind, and you know it's possible, and you know what to do, methods in your mind. That just stays an idea. So that's ideation. And then finally, where motivation crosses over with methods, you're motivated, you have purpose, you have energy, you know exactly what to do, methods, that's implementation. Implementation, that's very powerful, but you're still going to be stuck in that box because you're only going to be able to learn or live or achieve as much as your mindset believes is possible, because you're not crossing over with mindset. Now, where all 3 combine, all 3 M's or all 3 I's, I'm going to give you a 4th eye. That's integration. Integration. And integration, like integer or integral, means whole. And so that is just who you are, and that's the limitless state. Now, the reason why I give you this framework is go back to that issue that you're having where you're not making progress, you're not advancing. This allows you to have a new lens to look at it through, to take the judgment and the criticism out and be kind with yourself and saying, where's my limit here? You know, where's the lie, limited idea, entertain, or where is where are we redrawing the borders and boundaries of what is possible? Am I not advancing because of my mindset? Do I not believe it's possible? Do I not believe I'm capable of it? Do I not believe I deserve it? And then you unlimit that, right? Or, and we show you exactly how to do that in the book. Or is it your motivation? Do you not feel the purpose? Are not generating enough energy? Are you not breaking down the small, simple steps? Or are you not making progress? You might have the limitless mindset and limitless motivation, but you're using old methods of marketing or old methods of fitness or old methods of negotiating or old methods of reading and remembering, right? So here's the lesson. Stop. Don't do this. Do not downgrade. This is a big mistake I see a lot of people doing right now in this moment. Do not downgrade your dreams to meet this current situation. Instead, upgrade your mindset, your motivation, and the methods you're using to be able to meet your dreams and your destiny. Let me stop this screen share. And that's the limitless model. And the reason why I give that to you first as a framework is from now moving on into the future, for as long as you live, share this limitless model with your family, with your children, with your coworkers, because this applies with Limitless book. When people go to limitlessbook.com and they get the book there, and again, we're donating 100% of the proceeds to charity, to children's education, and also Alzheimer's brain research, specifically for women, because women are twice as likely to experience Alzheimer's than men. And because I lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's, that's something I'm very passionate about. But when you go there, we also have 2 bonus chapters, Limitless for children and Limitless for your teams. Because the work I do at Google, at Nike, and Facebook, at SpaceX, GE, Harvard, the different work is not only just making individuals limitless. How do you create that in an organization? Whether you have 3 people on your team or 300 coworkers or 300 people that work with you, how can you raise and unlimit the most powerful resource that you have, which is the collective intelligence and brain power of your organization or of your family or of your community? All right. Now, let me end with this. All right. The book is heavily endorsed by a lot of doctors. Dr. Rudy Tanzi, head Alzheimer's research center in the country out of Harvard University. Also, Dr. Jeffrey Cummings, who's the founding director of the Cleveland Clinic Center for Brain Health. Dr. Daniel Amen, Dr. Mark Hyman. And so I do a lot of speaking for hospitals, training their doctors, their researchers, their caregivers, their patients, and so on. We know that about 1/3 of your memory, your brain potential, is determined by genetics and biology. About 2/3 is in your control. All right, so here really quickly are 10 things that you could do to upgrade your brain. meaning, yes, you learn the processes for speed reading, focus, memory, but you also have to, that's the software. You also have to take care of the hardware. So the supercomputer. So what are 10 things you could do right now to be able to up level your supercharge your brain? I'm going to give you 10 things. They're not really debatable because research is pretty strong with it, but I'm just reminding you as a coach to, if you're not putting energy into it, to put extra attention there. So rate yourself on a scale of 0 to 10, how much energy you're putting into this. All right. I'm going to go through a really rapid fire 10. And I have videos, I did a podcast on how to remember these 10s forwards and backwards as if it was a TED talk that you had to give from memory to learn it literally in minutes. So here we go. Number 1, in no particular order, good brain diet. If you want a limitless brain, you want to eat, the most amazing foods, right? And so what is your diet? What you eat matters, especially for your gray matter. So in the book, I talk about the science of neuronutrition, that your brain, while it's only 2% of your body mass, it requires 20% of the nutrients. And your brain, while it's part of your body, has different requirements than the rest of your body. And so we talk about the best brain foods, right? And some of these you eat already, and some of them and then you can even add to the list, I'm sure many of you. So avocados, blueberries, I call them brain berries, right? Broccoli, olive oil, there's been research on. If you eat eggs, the choline in eggs has been shown to be good for your brain. Green leafy vegetables, kale, spinach, wild salmon, right? The DHA, the omega-3s, and because your brain's mostly fat. Turmeric is a great brain food. Low inflammation. Walnuts look like a human brain. Dark chocolate, this goes on and on, right? So good brain diet. Number 2, killing ants is clinically proven to be good for your brain. And I'm just kind of tongue-in-cheek. Ants stands for automatic negative thoughts. And I got that term from Dr. Daniel Amen, for Change Your Brain, Change Your Life. Reducing the negative self-talk. Remember I said, if you say you have a horrible memory, you're getting too old, I say stop. If you fight for limitations, you get to keep them. So you want to keep them positive. And even if you say, I don't have a great memory, add a little word like yet at the end. Yet, right? Because it opens up the possibility. If you truly understood how powerful your mind is, you wouldn't say or think something you didn't want to be true. That's not to say you have one bad thought is going to ruin your life any more than eating that one donut is going to ruin your life, but it's the consistency of it. Your mind is always eavesdropping on your self-talk. You can write that down. All right. Third thing, exercise. We already talked about that. As your body moves, your brain grooves. And I don't just mean exercising and doing, Palateos or CrossFit 3 times a week. I'm talking about how you're moving every single day. Scale of 0 to 10. Just rate yourself. How much are you moving each day? By the way, the optimum amount of time to study is about 30 minutes, 25 to 30 minutes. And then you take a brain break because it's called primacy and recency. There's a technique I talk about in the book called the Pomodoro technique, that after about 25 minutes, your focus, concentration for yourself, for your kids, for your team tends to drop. And so take a 5-minute brain break to what? To move, to hydrate, to do some deep breathing exercises, right? Because a lot of people are tired because of their posture. They're not breathing. The lower 1/3 of your lungs absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen. So movement. So rate your movement on a scale of 0 to 10. As your body moves, your brain grooves. Brain-derived neurotropic factors, all the reasons we talked about earlier. 4th, brain nutrients, right? And I recommend always, like whether it's your diet, you can have a gut biome test done, food sensitivity test. For nutrient profile, you could do nutrient profile with your functional medicine doctor. Get your test done. And if you're deficient in vitamin B and vitamin E and omega-3s, DHA, your brain's not going to perform as it needs to. So maybe I always prefer to get it from food, but if you don't have that option, look into supplementation. That's number 4. Number 5 is positive peer group. All right. Who you spend time with is who you become, because you have in your nervous system these things called mirror neurons, which creates empathy. You start imitating the people around you. So it's not just your neurological networks, it's your social networks. You start adopting the same languaging, the same habits, eating habits, and everything else of the people you spend time with. Who you spend time with is who you become. So are you around people that encourage you, that challenge you, that cheerlead for you? We all need that person. And if you haven't found that person, be that person for someone else, especially be that person for you. And as we wrap up, number 6, clean environment. Your external world is a reflection of your internal world, right? And I talk about that a lot in the book, how to organize your environment for optimal cognitive performance. Number 7, sleep. Sleep matters for so many reasons, and you know it, but when it comes to your brain, it's where you consolidate short to long-term memory. So if you have brain issues, memory issues, check your sleep, have a professional sleep study done. Number 2 is where you clean beta amyloid plaque out of your brain that could lead to brain aging challenges. Number 3 is where you dream. And dreaming, I have this process for how to remember your dreams, because did you know Paul McCartney came up with the song Yesterday in his dream? Did you know Mary Shelley came up with the Frankenstein in her dream? What are you dreaming about? But you need to sleep, and you need to process for remembering your dreams, because most people forget them. That's number 7. 8 is brain protection. Wear a helmet, right? Your brain is resilient, but it's fragile. Number 9, new learnings, right? New learnings, how you grow your mental muscles, same as your physical muscles: novelty, nutrition, and rest. So learning always, right? Adds a lot. It's actually, there was a study done on super nuns called Aging with Grace. These nuns, it was on the cover of Time magazine. They lived longer and they had life in their years also, because they were always learning. And then finally, 10, stress management. We talked about in the beginning that chronic stress shrinks your brain. And so what are you doing, scale 0 to 10? How are you coping with the stress? And in the book, I talk about everything from my meditation techniques to mindfulness and so on and so forth. Now, as we wrap up in the top of the hour here, I know many of you might have questions. I wanted to be able to serve you here, be able to come in. Michelle had this conversation about how you up-level your learning in your life. If people want to find out more, I'll just last share screen right now, if that's okay. This last share screen is just my contact info. It's just limitlessbook.com. If people want the book, that's where you get all the bonuses and the chapters there. The text is not an opt-in or an email or anything else like that. That actually goes to my phone. So if you have any questions, feel free to text or reach out. And I challenge everyone to take a screenshot of this right now and actually post it. Tag PaleoFX, tag myself at Jim Kwik, post it, and share one thing. My last tip for you is this: when you teach something, you learn it twice. When you learn with the intention of teaching somebody else, you have better focus, you take better notes, you make it your own, because in order to be able to actively recall it and share it, you have to deepen the grooves into your brain to know it even better. So how can you do that? You learn to earn so you can return. So take something you learned here out of your notes, or take a picture of your notes, tag PaleoFX, tag Michelle, tag myself, post it. I'll repost some of my favorite tips, share like one thing that you're gonna learn, one small, simple step you're gonna do for your brain. We talked a lot of them. And I'll actually gift the book out to a couple random people just for sharing that out with people, just as a thank you for being part of this amazing community. And I'm gonna wrap with that. I'm gonna stop the share screen. And thank you, Michelle, for my words for people is be that butterfly. While the beauty is in the butterfly, the growth is happening right now as what we're doing. That your life is like that cocoon, that if a cocoon or an egg is broken by an outside force, life ends. But if an egg is broken by an inside force, life begins. Great things begin on the inside. And if you're watching this, you have greatness inside of you, you have genius inside of you. And what a wonderful time to let it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jim. That was so amazing. I really enjoyed that. And I'm going to have to go back to my notes and do the same thing. So you guys definitely please post your comments, anything that you learned, share it, tag us all in it, and we will definitely get back and respond. And I think that we'll probably also do some PaleoFX giveaway on this as well. So you gifting a book, well, we may be gifting some tickets. So
amazing. Well, thank you, everybody. I wish everyone's days be safe, be strong, be safe, be sanitized. And I wish your days be full lots of life, lots of love, lots of laughter, and always lots of learning. Michelle, thank you and your entire team again for making this possible for everybody. And we'll talk to you real soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing this for our tribe. So appreciate it. Thank you. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back again next week. And if you have questions or anything, please, if you know someone that could really use this information, please share it widely, because I think everyone right now can really gain a lot from what Jim was talking about and all the learning and staying in that positive frame of mind. So thank you so much. And you guys have a wonderful day.